Now, I'm not gonna lie, it was hard to choose just 5 of these exercises because depending on where you are as an athlete and depending on what your strengths and weaknesses are in general, we can pick a variety of different exercises to help you get better. However, I have chosen these 5 that I think will benefit you the most if you incorporate them into your training. I plucked these exercises out of 2 different buckets. Bucket number 1 was exercises that help build strength and power in your primary drivers, those muscles that are used the most to help you run fast. And the second bucket that I picked exercises out of was the bucket that has exercises that help us mitigate injury when it comes to running. It is true that running is a lot of the same movement over and over and over again. So if we can mitigate some of these overuse injuries, we can keep you running for longer. Because I don't know about you, but I want to run fast and far, but also for a very long time. And finally, I made a few of these exercises combo exercises as my sneaky way to kind of give you 10 exercises in 5. So don't be afraid to break these movements down into their components to work on specific parts of each exercise. So without further ado, let's jump into these exercises so you can see what you have in store. Remember, for any one of these exercises, technique is more important than speed, intensity, or the amount of weight you add. So do things right first, and then you can add some spice. To start, let's work on those primary drivers. We've got a couple exercises that are going to help you with glute strength and speed here. First one is a rotational single leg deadlift into a step up. When you're doing this exercise, let's get set up facing a small box or step. To start with, you're going to keep your hips level as you stand on one leg. The leg that is lifted or in the air is going to rotate as far out as you can to the side and then towards midline. You'll then go into your single leg deadlift, power up, get that lifted leg onto the bench and step up in a strong motion. This exercise requires glute activation on both sides, so you can always do a few of the rotations, a few of the single leg deadlifts, and a few of the step ups in a row before doing the whole exercise all together. When you're doing this exercise, you should feel action coming from your butt, and you should not feel pain or discomfort in the lower back. If that happens, re-level your glutes, make sure both hips are pointed towards the box, and try again. Next, let's take a look at our quarter depth rear foot elevated split squat jumps. The important thing to remember when you're doing this exercise is to focus on feeling it in the front leg. Your back leg should be dead weight. That is helping you get into the position, but is not necessarily doing the work. Again, we want to start slow with these and then get fast once we feel confident. What I want you to do is get set up with one foot 3 feet distances away from the box. Place your back toes or either up or flat on that box. Sink those hips down into about a quarter depth compared to if you were going all the way to the floor with this. And then power up using that front leg only, keeping the hips level to get a little bit of space between your front toes and the floor. Let's move into our next category of movements. This second group of exercises is going to build a strong torso or core, and that's going to help us mitigate injury, but it's also going to help us have a very strong and powerful stride. What we'll get you to do is lie on your back on the ground, and in order to make sure you're activating that core to its full potential, I'm going to get you to have a sweater or band between the hollow of your back and the floor. Then you're going to tilt your pelvis backwards towards the ground so that you cannot move that band left to right at all. It is pinned to the floor. From this position, there's going to be 2 exercises we're going to do. The first is a straddle hold. What you'll do is move both legs out at 45 degrees away from the body and hold this position statically. If that feels good, we can move on to our runner position, hollow bodies. What that is in the same starting position with that low back pinned to the ground. You're going to tuck one heel close to underneath your hips and extend the other leg out straight away from you. Then you are going to switch without losing the contact between your low back and the floor and without losing that pressure on the band. Next, let's talk about our hip stability and strength. This is also a part of your core, and it is going to, again, help you run faster, but also mitigate any injuries of the lower body by building a strong torso. What we're gonna do is some hip dips and lateral drives. You are gonna need some sort of raised surface for this. That could be a stair or a box if you have one, or a bench or a kitchen chair. And you'll also need a wall to use. So hopefully you can find those around the house. For hip dips, you're gonna start by standing on the box with one foot floating off the side of the box. Hips are totally level at this point. We don't want to hitch one hip high. We want to keep them both totally level. From there, we're going to drop one hip bone towards the floor, keeping both legs straight so that it is actually the hip unit that is moving and not our knees that are bending. Then we're going to return back up to level. From there, raise your knee to 90 degrees and you're going to push into the wall beside you. This will mean that we're using our TFL as well as our glutes to stabilize the hip and then exert force on that wall. Our final two exercises address our lower leg, that is our calves, as well as our tibialis anteriors, by doing calf raises as well as toe raises. For this exercise, we'll get you to stand with your feet underneath your hips and go into about a quarter squat position. From here, we are going to try and peel the front halves of our shoes off the ground by picking our toes up and lifting them towards our knees. Then, from that position, we'll put our toes down, push into them to complete a calf raise. Start by trying to do 15 to 20 of these, and if that gets too easy, you can also add weight to progress this movement. Now, this is by no means an extensive list, and depending on who you are as an athlete and what your goals are, there's a variety of other exercises you can use to get strong for running. However, I think this is a very good overview of my top 5 / I kind of snuck 10 exercises in there, if I'm being honest, exercises to get you ready for running. I hope you have a wilder day and you enjoy incorporating these into your strength work.